Well, we did see record numbers of Kentuckians filing for absentee ballots for the primary. Secretary Adams and Governor Beshear agreed to keep that option in place for this election season, but Adams says they also looked at other ways to help people vote safely in person. When I sat down with him earlier this week, he explained what the state is doing to ensure those who need to vote absentee still can, while also expanding the voting window to ensure a level of social distancing.
We've only got about a certain capacity in our state to manage absentee balloting. It works, it's safe, it's fraud-proof, but our state's not designed for people to vote that way as a general matter. And so if we were to scale up significantly beyond what we had the primary, it might be tough on our system. We're just not designed for everyone voting that way. So we kept absentee balloting, but we have limited it to those who need it. And that's a subjective decision to be made by the voter. It's not my decision. If your health qualifies or your age qualifies, that's your decision as a voter. We're keeping it for those who need it, but we're also expanding in-person voting significantly. So far, I've approved 96 county plans out of 120. They've all shown significant progress in adding places to vote for the general election. We're also providing in-person voting, early voting, for 3 weeks before Election Day. In other words, you don't need an excuse or even an appointment. You just go vote.
Dating back to his campaign, Secretary Adams' mantra is easier to vote, harder to cheat. Absentee ballots and early voting will make it easier. As for harder to cheat, a new law means that photo ID will be required to vote in the upcoming election, with some exceptions this year.
I beat back 3 lawsuits over it. We're going to have a photo ID to vote in this election. But I did use my emergency powers under the law to provide exceptions to people who, because of COVID-19, get a photo ID. I'm not going to be inhumane and let people vote because they can't get a photo ID. Their age or health condition means they can't go stand in a line at the clerk's office, or the clerk may still be closed because of COVID-19. So those people are going to be able to vote with a non-photo ID and an oath of voter they'll execute, and they'll be able to vote.
So one of the big pushes you have made is to recruit new poll workers. How has that progress been going?
We've had great success in recruiting poll workers. It's actually not my office's job, it's the job of the county clerks, but we've been good partners with them. It takes 15,000 poll workers to have a traditional election. On our own, by ourselves, without any help, we've recruited 5,000 of them. We've been beating the bushes for 2.5 months finding poll workers. It's showing some success. It's part of why we've had many more polling locations open up for the Journal. We've got about a dozen counties so far and counting that have opened up every single precinct. It's been very successful.
As for election results, Adams says that in Kentucky, we can expect to learn a lot by the end of November 3rd. But nationwide, there may be a wait.
Because most of our voters are going to vote in person over a 3-week span versus voting absentee, that means we get a step up on getting a fast count. So my expectation is on election night, we're going to have probably 80% of the vote counted. In Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, they're going to take weeks to count their ballots. They're much more reliant on absentee balloting than Kentucky is. And they have said they're not going to start the process of processing those until after the election is over. It'll be a week or two before we know who the president is. I just want to caution everyone, it's going to be a long week or two. But here in Kentucky, we're going to have counts on election night. They won't be totally final. Close races will still yet to be determined, but that's typical under Kentucky law. It takes usually 9 to 10 days for us to certify who won. But in most of our elections, we're going to know election night who won, and they'll have projections called by the media.
And deadlines to vote in this year's election are quickly approaching. The deadline to register to vote is tomorrow, October 5th. You have until next Friday, October 9th to request an absentee ballot. In-person voting starts Tuesday, October 13th, and Election Day is Tuesday, November 3rd, and all ballots will be due.